Hello, SureBabe listeners. Welcome back. This is your host, Chrissy Powers, licensed marriage and family therapist / coach, blogger, podcaster, entrepreneur, crazy mom, wearing many hats. Thank you guys so much for being here. And thank you so much for your reviews. They mean so much to me. I just really care if this is encouraging you. So I am happy that you guys are here. Anyways, today, let's get into what we're talking about. We are talking about how to know if launching a business is right for you. I'm interviewing my friend, Julia Wheeler. She is the owner of the shop, Gunn and Swain, and she is also the designer and owner of Seaesta Surf. She creates beautiful board shorts, trunks, bathing suits, and surf-related / beach-related products that my kids live in. And I thought she would be the perfect person to talk about how she transitioned from her job at Transworld Surf Magazine to owning her own shop while she had a newborn. She literally did this right after she had her first son, and she has grown it over the years and learned and grown. And she's sharing all of the ups and downs with you guys today. So without further ado, let's get into the episode with Julia Wheeler. Hey guys, today I am so excited to have my friend Julia Wheeler on the podcast. We are talking all about how to know if starting a business is right for you and how to go about that. And today I'm having Julia Wheeler on the podcast because not only is she a good friend, but she is a badass businesswoman with 2 different businesses, a shop called Gunn Swain and an online surf brand called Seaesta Surf, where she makes adorable swimwear for your littles. And I hope she considers making swimsuits for women because she has an eye for design, and she's gone after what she wants in life. And we're going to talk about how she did that and how this can help you guys get the courage to jump out there and start your own businesses. So welcome to the show, Julia.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. And just side note, we already recorded about 15 minutes and then I noticed that we weren't recording. So we're going to do this again. That's just what it's like, to work like a mom. That's what I call it. Work like a mom. Okay. So Julia, why don't you introduce yourself to the SureBabe listeners and tell everybody who you are and what you do.
So my name is Julia Wheeler, and I have 2 different companies. One is called Gunn and Swain, and it's like an interiors online shop. And you may have seen our Mexican blankets around at the beach with Chrissy and her family. And also at the beach with Chrissy and her family are our board shorts, Seaesta Surf. It's a kids clothing and swim line. And yes, someday I would really love to do women's suits. But I just want them to be so perfect when we do it. So I do that. And then I do just like a bunch of other random stuff in the creative and marketing world, doing photo shoot production and styling and, just doing a million things. And I have 2 kids and trying to juggle everything.
It is a juggle. I know that well. Okay, so we're going to go back to the beginning because I think a lot of listeners here are wanting to start something of their own or pivot careers, and they're just wondering, like, how do I know if starting my own business is right for me? So how did Gunn and Swain start? Because that's the first business that you started, right?
Yeah, so I started that. I had the idea to just start a kind of online shop. I was always trying to do little side hustle creative things to keep my creative juices flowing while I worked my corporate jobs. And so I had the idea to start that little shop to sell some of my husband's woodworking creations and some of the stuff that we found while traveling. And I had the shop ready and did a little photo shoot with some of my friends and got it all ready while I was pregnant. And then I told myself, okay, I have 3 months of maternity leave, which before having kids, I thought would be like 3 months of vacation time. not realizing how much work it was to recover from having a baby and then also care for a baby. Being naive as I was like, well, I have 3 months to figure this out. I really didn't want to go back to the corporate world. So I was like, let's give this a shot. And I kind of just figured it was going to be just a fun side project. So I didn't know if I was going to be looking for a new job or what, but I gave birth to my son, and then 2 weeks later, I pretty much already had everything ready to go. And so I announced that my shop was open, and it was in the early days of Instagram kind of being used as a way to, promote your business. And, it had gone from just being something that people used to use the photo filters to actually being something where businesses had a way to promote their goods for free. So I grew a following there pretty quickly. And within just a few months, by the time my maternity leave was up, I was selling a lot of Mexican blankets. And so I kind of looked at that and was like, I really don't want to go back to this job. And I didn't really have any other leads. So my husband and I decided that, I was going to stay home. And I did do some freelance marketing to kind of make sure that I still had a steady income. But my store, by the end of the year, I launched in March. And by the end of the year, I looked at my books and I was like, oh, I think I have an actual company here.
That's amazing.
These numbers look pretty good. So yeah, we were able to kind of look at that and say, maybe we just, pivot here and just do this full time.
Mm-hmm. So internally, were you kind of nervous, or were you just finding hope in the analytics of it that you could pivot your career?
I mean, to be honest, it all happened so quickly and not by accident, but I just wasn't expecting any of that to happen the way that it did and so quickly. And so I don't even really feel like I had time to even think that much about it. It really wasn't until the end of that year where I was like, oh, okay, this is an actual business. And I didn't even have, it's so funny because you always look at, when businesses start and people are actually being really thoughtful about it, they're like making a marketing plan, making this whole business plan, and, getting all of their ducks in a row. And I did everything backwards. I was like, I guess I need a business license and a bank account and I need to go file all of this stuff. I didn't have any of that ready because I just was expecting it to just be kind of some fun little side thing. So I don't even ever feel like I had time to think that much about it. It just kind of happened. So it's partially luck, but kind of being in the right place at the right time with Instagram doing so well for me. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, then the analytics definitely help because you can look at that and be like, well, okay, what I'm doing is actually working, because if I had spent that long working on it and I wasn't really selling anything, then I might have been discouraged.
Right. I love that you just mentioned that, because I think that's a misconception that a lot of people have before they start or take that step out into okay, I'm going to do my own thing, I'm going to do this business, is that they have to have it all perfect or all figured out or have a business plan. Obviously having a business plan is great.
Yeah.
But you just can't figure everything out all the time beforehand. You sometimes have to work through it and meet your needs as they come up. And I think that you did that well in terms of just figuring it out after you saw that, oh my online shop is actually providing for me, and now I can make it a business. So
totally. I mean, I feel like that's one of my biggest pieces of advice is to just do something, because you could sit there thinking about it and questioning yourself and, watching other people have similar ideas while you're still, trying to figure out logistics. Of course it is, you have to plan some things out, and who knows, maybe I would have been better off in the long run if I had like spent, you know, a little bit more time planning. But I also think there's something to be said for just doing it. Just give it a shot and, you know, see if whatever it is that you are interested in doing resonates with people, because that's the best way to stay motivated and prove to yourself or investors or whatever that, you know, there is a demand for this. Is you got to just start it.
Would you say that starting that shop helped feed into your next business endeavor, starting your own brand and your own product with Seaesta Surf?
Totally. I mean, we kind of did the same thing where I have a business partner for that company, and it's actually my cousin who worked in clothing production for years. And so we both had young sons who were like 2 and 3 around the time we started the business. And we were having a really hard time finding board shorts for them that actually fit well. So we thought, I didn't know if I really had like the bandwidth to take on another project, but we were like, well, it's something that we really feel like we need. So let's just make a small round of samples and try it and see, you know, if there is interest out there. But I did know so, you know, in a sense, we did kind of do the same thing where we were just kind of testing it. But I you know, this time I knew ahead of time, like, okay, here's like the handful of things that I know we need to do up front. And then here's the things that I know can wait a little bit longer. So for certain people, you might want to trademark your name or your idea or your business like right up front. But for us, we were like, hey, let's give it a little bit and see if, you know, if it is worth it to spend all of the money doing that. And then we did that 2 years in. But I did get all of like my business license and bank account and all of that stuff, like at the beginning this time instead of working backwards. So like there are kind of a few things that I learned, you know, having an EIN and things like that, so we could collect sales tax and actually pay our taxes. And we did all of that up front. So yeah, that's something that I was like, okay, this time around, I actually know that there's certain things that we should do from the beginning.
Right. So it was like you learned from it, but also you learned like it's pointing you in this direction too, that you can actually have your own product to sell. And I love that you said you created it out of a need. So can you talk a little bit about that? Like, how did you know starting Seaesta Surf was right for you and your family and like at this right time?
Yeah. So, we basically we literally were trying, I could not find board shorts to save my life. My son is really slim and he just seemed to be like clothes. He still kind of swims in clothes, but with the shorts, we were like, well, we have these connections to have these things produced. We don't always like the designs of kids clothes, and even sometimes the way that like kids clothing is marketed. There's obviously so many cool brands out there, but there's also a lot of like stuff that I don't love. And so, you know, lots of stuff that's just kind of nerdy kids things. And I'm like, kids can be a little bit cooler than this. So, so we really wanted something that we were like, this is something we would wear ourselves, something that actually fits well. So for us, it really was created out of a need to clothe our own kids.
Okay.
And then as far as the timing, I wasn't sure, like I said, if it was something I had the bandwidth to do, but I figured it was worth giving it a shot. And to be honest, the first couple of years of doing it, we, my cousin and I both ended up having like second children, and we had them a week apart. So it was kind of like after we had our second kids, it was kind of like, you know, me being pregnant and then giving birth. It was kind of a 2-year like gap where things were just kind of like, we were just kind of skating by.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until this past year that when my daughter turned 2, my youngest turned 2, that I actually had time and energy to really put an effort into this. And by that time, the brand had been around long enough that we were like, people are responding to this. So it does seem like it's worth putting our effort into. And so over this past year, I've started to kind of slowly shift. And obviously, I'm one person and I do pretty much everything for both of my companies, especially marketing and shipping and fulfillment. All of that is me. So, so I started kind of shifting from putting more effort into Gunn and Swain and less into Seaesta. And now I'm working more on Seaesta and a little bit less on Gunn and Swain. And I'm trying to just kind of shift like the percentage of my time that I spend working on those and kind of slowly put more and more time into Seaesta and less time into Gunn and Swain. And it really is more because I see more excitement and more growth opportunities with Seaesta than I do with Gunn and Swain. So I don't necessarily know. I think analytics wise, or like if somebody else were kind of looking at their own businesses and potentially making a shift, all I could say would be to kind of, it's partially passion, like one brand makes me really excited and the other one, I have moments where I get really excited about it. And then moments where I'm like, I don't know if this like totally fulfills me anymore. So I think it's a little bit that where it's a gut thing, but then there also are analytics where you can look and be like, oh, our sales are growing here and they're stagnant in this other place. So maybe it does make sense to, shift effort over to something else.
All right, you guys, I just had to pause for 1 second to let you know this episode is brought to you by my editorial calendar, which is totally free and available to you guys. All you have to do is click the link in the description of this podcast or head to chrissypowers.com. There'll be a link in the show notes of this podcast on there as well. And it's totally free. So take the stress out of knowing what to post to social media. Create a whole month's worth of content ahead of time with your goals in mind and have it written out on paper, because when we write things out, we retain 90% more information than when you type it out on your phone. So take that into account today and download this free resource for you guys. Yeah, it sounded like when you were saying that, I was just thinking of like how it's just more like an energy shift and how you put your energy into something where that feeds you more, but also is growing more. And that I think sometimes we try to do, or no, I'm like thinking of myself, I'm trying to do too much, or I'm putting my effort and my energy into areas that aren't growing. And then I'm feeling tapped out, and then I'm like, oh, but ultimately this is what my why is, or this is my reason for doing my business, and I'm just like tapped out in too many different areas, and I'm not focused enough in one. So I think that that's good that you recognize that about your businesses, is like, okay, well, one is feeding me more, and then it actually literally is creating more of an income. So
yeah, totally.
So where do you see it going? Where do you have like more goals set for Seaesta, and you're kind of just like, putting more into that because you have more hopes and dreams for that, and you have more, I know we talked about like creating, you creating women's line sometime. So is that because it's just more curiosity and more passion there?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is that it's just, definitely more curiosity and passion. And then I think like one of the things that has like really helped with Seaesta is that we have true seasons,
Yeah.
Whereas Gunn and Swain, it could just kind of, I could go 2 years without really doing anything new. but for Seaesta, we kind of look at it and we're like, oh, we're going to do a new collection for next summer, and we're going to do a back to school collection and this mini holiday drop or whatever. And it really helps kind of for me be able to set goals and have true timelines, where Gunn and Swain just is something that it doesn't really have that. So it really does for Seaesta. It helps keep me on track with knowing that I have real deadlines for when we have to have things. You know, we have to have artwork done by this date so we can submit it so that we can have everything manufactured on time and delivered by such and such date. So having deadlines helps me a ton. And yeah, just, I mean, we have an endless amount of growth opportunity. You know, we have our swimwear starts at baby sizes, so like size 1. And right now we're going to go up to a 24 next year in our shorts. So it's like we can grow with a kid from the time that they're 1 all the way up into like being a preteen. So it just, you know, the opportunity for that is great. And then, yeah, being able to branch out into women's or doing more men's shorts or doing year-round collections. There's just so much more opportunity there, and it definitely is more exciting. So,
and that's because you've created a brand in itself that's like appealing, and it's not just the trunks. It's like, oh, like this lifestyle brand that you created is super fun. Like surf, eat, nap. That's your tagline. And I love it. Yeah. I know I sent Waylon to school today with his new button up from you guys because it's picture day.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
And he looks so dang cute in it, and it fits him so well. He's not swimming in it like all the other button ups that would, you know, be something that I would find at like the store.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you really did set out and make something that's like for like fitted for, I mean, you have sizes for every kid, but like the kid that's just not the stereotypical sample size for his age. He's a little smaller, skinnier. So yeah, fits him so well. little plug. I love it. But what was I going to? Oh, I was going to ask you about goal setting. So I know you have deadlines, but do you like meet with your business partner or like even by yourself and like reassess or like write down or journal like what you want out of it and what you hope to achieve, like financially, or I mean, even just personally with it?
Yeah. So, I mean, I do both of those things. So I write out goals for myself at the beginning of the year that are just kind of like big idea goals. My goal for Seaesta this year, one of our goals is to hit 10K followers on Instagram so we can get the stupid swipe up feature in stories. Yeah. But we're going to get there this year. And, so, you know, things like that. I love to write out those types of goals that aren't really necessarily, you know, anything. It's not some huge like analytics, like, oh, I can crunch these numbers and whatever. But it's just kind of like, I like to set those kind of like softer, more, you know, just kind of like dream goals. Just write those kinds of things down. And then, as I usually do find at the end of the year, I can look back and be like, oh my gosh, look, I did all of those things. And then, and then as far as what my business partner and I do, I mean, we talk all the time. We talk pretty much all day, every day about stuff, sending each other ideas and this and that. But definitely one of the things that we do is we look at, you know, last year we launched our collection in April, and we sold more last year than we have any other year. And basically we kind of realized, oh, the earlier we launch, the more, like the longer our sales period is. So this year we're trying to launch even earlier. And so we definitely look at kind of previous years and what we can improve upon. And a lot of that, will be style things, what styles didn't sell well. And we'll kind of analyze why we thought this color didn't do well or this design. And we might, last year we had something that we loved the artwork on it, but the colors were a little dark. And so next year we're going to put the artwork out again, but lighten up the colors. And so we talk about all of those things throughout the year. And then when it comes time to actually sit down and plan, our collection, we'll kind of say, okay, what were all of these things that came up for us? What was any of the feedback that we got about fit? The first couple of years, we were really adjusting our sizing and our fit. And so we kind of, we work on that. We talk about that throughout the year. And then when we sit down to actually plan the collection, we take all of that into account to make sure that, every year we're really improving upon what we did the previous year.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. In terms of marketing and all of that, I know we mentioned before that like you started Gunn and Swain when Instagram was like free, essentially. It was a lot easier to navigate. And I know you and I have
chronological
and we've had these conversations before, but what would you say to encourage someone now that's like, okay, well, things aren't as easy as they were. What would you say if someone's like, yeah, I want to start my own side business or my own, I want to ultimately leave my job and start my business?
I mean, I think one of the things that I really learned in my corporate marketing career that I also learned firsthand with the whole Instagram algorithm drama is that you really can't put all of your eggs in one basket. So Instagram is a great way to market your product or your products or services or whatever, and you can still get pretty good reach and grow a good community that way. But it's important to do other things. Start a podcast, start an email list, and whatever you're doing, really try to, be a part of a community. That's been one of the things that has been the most helpful for us, but B, the most rewarding about all of this is that, I've, in the past 5.5 years that I've been doing this, I have such an incredible community of people that I've met through Instagram. And as much as that app drives me crazy and I want to delete it all the time, I also am like, oh my gosh, I've made friends all over the world there, and people can be so supportive. And, even people that I've met locally, you and I wouldn't have known each other if it was for this, and we only live like half an hour away from each other.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's one of those things that I think, it can be frustrating to look at your numbers or your like count or, your engagement or whatever it is and be frustrated by it. But you can also choose to look at it and say, oh, I have this great community and these people who are supportive of us and what we're doing, and I'm supportive of them. And, everybody can be there to kind of help each other out and give each other a boost or help with the giveaway or whatever it is. I think, if it's a Facebook group, if it's an Instagram account, really look at it as like just one of your marketing tools where you should have like a whole handful of things that you're doing, but also really look at it as like a genuine community that you're trying to build and be a part of.
I love that advice. And I would recommend that too. It's like, just because things are more saturated, it's not too saturated. And there's so many different platforms now to get your business out there or your product in that way. But what's been the best thing for you to get encouragement or get advice in your business? And was it like a podcast? Was it a certain coach or an e-course, or what helped you or has helped you over the course of running two businesses?
I mean, probably a little bit of everything, podcasts here and there. and just talking to other people who are doing similar things. I think that's been one of the most helpful things, is having people that I can talk to who will give like true feedback. If, I have a handful of people that I can call and be like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this type of promotion. What's been successful for you or unsuccessful when you've done something similar.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's another, another part of having a community. Like if you have a community of people who are in a similar business and can share actual feedback and advice, I think that's so helpful. And it's something that I love about the communities that I'm in, is that not just like, is it a place for me to gain advice, but like share my experiences too. I love being able to do that for other people, because, people have been really good and open with me. So
yeah, I love that. Community over competition. Yeah. I tell people that all the time.
It's true. I always just feel like, even when I get down and I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody's trying to do something similar, or somebody literally stole my exact design when I gave them a pair of shorts. What a bummer. It's like, it gets frustrating, but at the same time, I'm like, all right, good luck to you then, there's room for everybody, and there are things that happen that are a bummer, but at the same time, it's like, okay, there's enough business out there for everybody. So it's just not important to me to get caught up in any of the competition stuff, and, just stay focused on what you're doing and really try to not get caught up in what anybody else is doing.
I love that. I have to remind myself that like daily. In your own lane. It's okay. Stay in your own lane. Okay. Well, in closing, I just wanted to ask you a few like quick questions. Favorite podcast that you listen to?
Well,
or you could throw out a few if you can.
Well, I listened to one called Keep It. Mm-hmm. It's like a pop culture. It's just, it's on every Wednesday, and it's just the funniest break in my day. And I kind of like podcasts that are just entertaining and funny. So,
who is your most like inspiring person on Instagram?
You.
I did not pay her to say that. Well, like, who do you go to for like, you just have to keep checking them. Like, what's going on in their life? Or they're like inspiring you? Because I have like a few people that I go to because I'm like, oh, I like their clothes, or I like this person makes me feel better about myself, or this person's like a business person. So do you have like different categories like that?
Yeah. I mean, my favorite interiors inspiration and also life inspiration is my friend who used to own Hawaiian Lion, but now she has a different Instagram where she rents out a studio, and it's called Kawa Heart Studio.
Ooh.
She's Australian, and she's an interiors designer, but she uses a lot of really cool vintage, and so I love her. So she's always inspiring to me. And then who else? I feel like there's so many. I always love House and Habit. Jessica Krause, her kids are just so cool, and she's so good at just encouraging them to be themselves. And
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but honestly, I really don't, I don't really like a lot of I don't really follow a lot of people who talk about a lot of life stuff. I don't know how to explain that better, but I feel like you're really good at doing that in a way that not easy and inspiring, and your kids are really cute and funny. So.
Yeah, well, honestly, I mean, hey, we're getting real here on the podcast, because I'm like in that process of figuring out like, okay, I've built something up that was different than it is now. Like in the very beginning of my Instagram, it was not a business. It was like,
my son Waylon, and then it was like all that kids clothes, and then it was like, oh, people want to see me too. And now I'm like, hey, people really want to know my background and mental health, and they want help for themselves. So I'm like, that is ultimately what fulfills me is, I don't want to die and be like, oh, she just did a really good job posting photos of her kids in cute clothes. Like, that's great if that's like someone else's goal. And I would never want to take that away from someone, but I'm like, my soul is like wanting more. So I'm trying to like add more real talk, I guess, about like,
I love that.
Being a female in this world and being a mom and like an entrepreneur. So yeah, it's a little bit of an experiment right now, but it's
I love fun.
Yeah.
Great. You know who else I really love is Dante Colley. I don't know how you say it. Do you follow him?
Yes, I love him.
He does dances with his inspirational messages. Everybody listening to this should go follow him right now.
Dante Colley, yes. And that he is like a legit example of like someone that just created something that's so random, but it was like his thing, and you put it out there and it like resonated with people. So yeah, I love social media for that reason, that you can just literally try something new, and if it sticks, it's fine. If it doesn't, like, try something new again. Like, you really don't have that many consequences in terms of like, you're not putting out like, a ton of money like to start your Instagram. That's free. So I suggest to people like, well, try something new and then see if that works. And then like, you can now actually go into your analytics on Instagram and see, well, this is what's resonating with people. So well, thank you so much for your time, for being here. I'm so glad everybody got to hear from you and how you started your two amazing businesses. And I'm so excited to see where Seaesta Surf goes and wear one of your women's bathing suits someday.
Gotta figure that out.
Gotta figure it out in due time. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, I hope that episode encouraged you guys to maybe take the next step you need to take in launching your business or planning what you're going to do next. What fulfills you? What is going to take you through to building the life and the dream career that you want? Because I truly believe that all of us are deserving of that, and that we can all have that, and that the world is better when we have that. So I hope that this encouraged you guys to do that. And if you have any questions, always reach out to me. I'm on Instagram at Chrissy J. Powers. You can contact me through my blog, chrissypowers.com. Don't forget to download the editorial calendar that is still available for free right now. Click the link in the description of this podcast and it is all yours. It gets sent right to your inbox. Definitely check the spam first to see if it went to that inbox, and then you will have it totally free and accessible to download and to print out. So I hope you guys are loving this show. If you are, I always appreciate your positive comments and reviews. It totally helps keep this show going and helps get it out there for the people that need to hear it. So if you think this episode is good for someone, consider texting a link to it or sharing it on social media. #SureBabePodcast. I love sharing where you guys are listening and what's resonating with you. So with that, happy Thanksgiving, you guys. Have a wonderful week.